If you're anything like me, you've probably been through your fair share of journals over the years. You get gifted them for birthdays or Christmas, or maybe you buy a yearly planner with the full intention of writing in it every day. And then life gets in the way. You fall off the wagon, and before you know it, you're left with a notebook graveyard filled with more blank pages than filled ones. I've definitely been there too. But recently I've been finding myself writing in my journal more days than not, and I've found a way to make it sustainable and fun for me. So settle in, grab your journal, grab a cup of tea, and here are some of the best ways that I've found to actually start a journaling habit, especially as we head into the new year. My first tip is to figure out why you're doing it. For me, I realized that it's so easy to let life slip by, and before you know it, there are entire years of your life where you can hardly remember a single thing that you did. I personally stopped journaling during all of the COVID years, and because of that, I find it actually very hard to remember what happened during those years. They're like a complete blur, and everyone talks about the COVID time skip. But I feel like if I'd had a journal and had been consistently writing in it during that time, I think I might be able to remember those years a little bit better. A journal is like a time capsule of the past. It's a message from past you to future you, and you never know when you might need to look back just to see how far you've come. My next tip is to replace social media scrolling with journaling. Instagram Reels and TikTok are all designed to be so addictive that it's very, very hard to avoid them, and it's very easy to spend more time than you'd like scrolling, especially if you have a lot of free time or it's the weekend. When I realised that I was doing this a little bit more than I'd like, I actually installed this app called Jomo, which allows you to block certain apps at certain times, and you can set up different conditions of what times you want certain apps to be blocked. You can also set it so that it completely blocks the app, so you just cannot access it, or you can set it up where you can unlock it for a certain amount of time. I've been able to almost completely reduce the amount of time that I'm spending on Instagram and TikTok because of this app. That's actually been making me a bit bored, but I don't say that as a negative thing. I actually think being bored is a rare treat these days. With social media and so many things designed to distract us, it's very, very difficult to be bored these days. And I've been finding actively working to become bored has been the thing that has helped me start journaling more, because I'm like, I've got nothing to do. I've got a few spare hours. Normally I'd fill that time with scrolling, but my app is blocking me from that, and that has been the times that I started journaling more. So if you are the kind of person that finds it hard to stay off social media and actually spend time with your hobbies, I would definitely recommend Jomo. There's also another app called Opal, or even just completely deleting Instagram and TikTok from your phone can also work. But I've found that when I've done that in the past, I get too much FOMO and then just reinstall it. Whereas these blocking type apps still allow you to occasionally look at the apps when you just want to, catch up with friends or see if you've got any messages on there. But the majority of the time it's being blocked. And I definitely recommend it to anyone who is struggling with their social media screen time being a bit too high and wants to replace that with something a little bit healthier and better for your mind as we head into the new year. My next tip is to not beat yourself up for missing days, because missing days are going to happen. We're all busy and sometimes we don't get as much time to ourselves as we'd like, but instead of beating yourself up about it and throwing in the towel completely, just catch up when you can. This sounds kind of strange, but I kind of think of it like building a long-term relationship with your journal. There are going to be ebbs and flows and sometimes gaps in communication, but the important thing is that you always eventually reconnect. My next tip is that you don't always need to write. If you can't think of something to write, there are other ways that you can fill up your journal, whether it's printing out a photo of something that happened in your day, sketching or doing a little doodle of something that happened in your day, or you can even just fill it up with stickers and a few words rather than loads and loads of paragraphs. I've also been enjoying sticking in receipts of films I've been to or restaurants I've been to, all those random bits of paper that usually get stuck in the bottom of your bag. It's just a really nice, tangible, physical way to remember something that you did on a certain day, and it's definitely better than the receipts just sitting in the bottom of your bag and getting all crumpled and broken. You could also print out a picture of a book that you've been reading or an album you've been listening to. You could also sketch or draw those things. There are just so many ways that you can fill your journal without having to just write paragraphs and paragraphs of text if that's not something that you particularly enjoy doing. And it's just really fun. Another great way to keep your journaling habit alive is to turn your journal into a commonplace book, which is basically just writing down things that you found from elsewhere. It might be a passage from a book, it might be just something you've heard someone say on a podcast, it might be lyrics from a song. It's just a really interesting way to record the things that inspire you, the things that stick out to you. And again, this is a really great one for looking back in your journal. It provides more of a reason for journaling because you're collecting all this information from elsewhere, and it's just so fun to look back on. It's also great if, like me, you are really bad at remembering things that you've read. It's really hard to remember books. I personally really struggle. Once I've read a book, if I put it down and a year later I look at that book, I really struggle to remember what happened in it. But I've been finding, as I've been being more intentional with making notes and writing things down that inspire me, I've been finding it a lot easier to remember those books. I read a lot on my Kindle, so as I'm reading, I make use of the highlighting feature, and then if I don't remember to write down the quote at the time, usually what I'll do is when I finish reading the book, I'll just go through my highlights and see if anything sticks out to me, and if something is really calling to me, then I'll write it in my journal. I also do this quite a lot with song lyrics. If I'm listening to a song, I'll just write down any lyrics that call out to me. I'll just randomly write it into my book. If you're the kind of person that is obsessed with music and books and the words of other people, sometimes it can be more fun to write down other people's words than always having to write down what you have for breakfast or whatever. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, I'd really appreciate it if you could hit subscribe and let me know in the comments how you have been using your journal, and if you have any exciting plans for journaling in 2024, I would love to hear it, and I'll see you in the next video.